So the next demonstration that we're going to look at focuses more on a safety or facility safety demonstration. This was actually modeled after one of our customers in the oil and gas space. It's modeled after real events and a real system. This is the dashboard for a fictitious company and from a demo perspective, but again, modeled after one of our customers. This is Stonehaven, and what Stonehaven aims to do is look at tons of real-time sensor information and contextualize that into situations of interest. In this particular case, it's looking for threats to the facility and ways to mitigate those threats. There are 12 different streams of data coming into this dashboard in a live format. The first is a simple weather service. There's an on-site environmental sensor giving us wind speed and direction. And then there's these leak and fire detectors. So when we talk about a leak detector, this is not a liquid-based leak. This is a ultrasonic detector that listens at the acoustic level for the presence of a compressed leak. It could be compressed air, it could be methane, or it could be something of this nature. And one of the things that Vantic will do is contextualize seemingly streams of data that don't necessarily have anything to do with one another, but join them together in a window of time for new meaning. For example, if I had a methane leak, the wind speed might be important in an outdoor area relative to understanding whether or not that area is safe to go into. High winds will disperse the methane gas in an outdoor area. A low wind speed will allow it to collect. It creates a much more volatile and therefore dangerous. We might send a robot instead of a human into that situation. We also have a number of other detection techniques here. As I mentioned, fire detection, your traditional smoke and fire detection or heat detection methods. There is also vision going on in the back end, so object recognition. These often find smoke up to a minute, sometimes even 2 minutes faster. That's critical in safety situations. And then the number that's been jumping around on the screen for the number of people is being detected by object recognition, also Wi-Fi hotspot connectivity, and mobile GPS. And one of the things that you see happening here on the screen is the object recognition engine is identifying those 3 people, which contributes to the total number of people in the facility. Vantic is contextualizing that in real time, converting this really 2-dimensional XY coordinate mapping that you see on the screen into 2D spherical coordinates. In other words, it can position exactly where these people are on the planet. When it comes to knowing where something is happening in a critical situation, we don't want to know where the camera is. We want to know exactly where the people are so that we can send emergency responders to the people, not to the camera. And so we're taking that information and dynamically translating it. But all of this has been very situational. Now let's engage the real-time engine and the generative AI to create that situational awareness. What happens when things change inside the environment? I'm going to bring up my mobile phone here on the screen. And on the mobile phone, in a moment, you'll see a notification. One of those acoustic sensors is going to go off. And you see it basically comes up and says, a new acoustic sensor has basically just been identified. The acoustic sensor has gone off, and it basically says, there's a gas leak. This is also what we'll introduce, as I mentioned, Samantha, which is the Meta assistant for the Stonehaven facility. And Samantha's basically said, I don't know what caused the leak, and I don't know what kind of leak it is. I don't know if it's compressed air, which would be a monetary loss, or if it's methane and something more combustible. But I've notified all personnel. You're, of course, one of them. So once again, we have a contextualization and a lookup. Who's the right person with the right skill set and the right georadius? So the next thing that happens is I might have some questions I want to interact with this. Well, we'll combine, again, multiple techniques to look at retrieval augmented generative search. We'll combine in-memory understanding of what's going on at the facility at a given moment in time. And I could say something like, how many people are currently at the refinery? And the system will basically look at that. It'll look at what it knows for our evacuation procedures. It'll look at what it knows about what's going on in the facility at a given moment in time. And it comes back and it says there are, I can't even read that, it's so small on my screen, but I think it says there's about 48 people. So it tells me that there's 48 people in the facility. So I might have some other questions. We talked about the wind speed. What's the current wind speed at the refinery? And I can continuously create this conversational this conversational element between the LLM and between Vantic and make it look like it's all a single cohesive conversation, a single thread of information. So now that we've got that information, we might start looking at other things. But as I mentioned before, in an asynchronous system, we don't know what events are going to happen and in what order. Like the situation might get better and we can sort of ignore it, but it might get worse. And in this particular case, the system's going to break out with a fire. One of the things you'll notice is that Samantha's already responding, right? So Samantha just didn't wait for me to prompt it again, just like Jarvis doesn't wait for Tony to always ask a question. He provides information or just-in-time information when it's needed. And in this case, he says, well, now I know that there's a new situation. There is a fire, it's caused by methane, and it's also said that appropriate people should evacuate, and it's specifically only called for the evacuation of people in this immediate area. How many people are near the fire? The system will come back, and we know that there's 3. We can see it on the screen there. The system will come back and say, there's 3 people near the fire. I'm the safety person for this facility. I don't want to evacuate just the 3 people. I want everybody to be clear of the situation. So I'm now going to say something like, evacuate all personnel from the facility. This will immediately change the status of the entire facility. We'll see that the entire facility, every sector in the facility will turn red. All personnel will get notifications. So you see on my screen that notifications will go out. I've now received an alert and a notification to evacuate the premise, but early on Marty talked about knowing the right place to go. This is now giving me a very specific direction in which to evacuate the premise because it knows where I am, it knows my GPS location, it knows where the danger is, and it's asking me to avoid very specific areas. Finally, when everything's returned to safety, I can ask the system, cancel the evacuation alert, let everybody come back to work. And the system will oblige. And what's interesting is if I falsely canceled the alert, as on the screen here you see, of course, everything's been canceled, if the alarms are still going off, they will then open up yet a new collaboration and start the entire process all over.